Hey fellow hackers, welcome to another video on Apex. Uh, I don't know, this is the second video already, but yeah, there are so much changes to the tool, like menu structure, new features, integration of other tools and stuff like that. So it's evolving rather quickly. So I thought it would make sense to showcase how it looks now and what it does. Well, like you can see in the stats here, the commits, like every day there's something new, something gets deleted, behavior change, etc. pp. So I can only highly recommend, before you do anything, do a git pull or just IX it directly from the repo. The first thing that changed is, like, I do pre-flight checks. So are you running in anything lower than PowerShell version 7? If so, give us an error or a remark on that. Check if Azure CLI, the AZ PowerShell module, and the Graph PowerShell module are available. But it's not going to, like, interfere here and say, hey, you cannot run it or whatever. It's just informational, so you know what you have to take care of. You can still run it, and most likely most of the queries and the tags will work, but there are some subtle differences in terminology, how commandlets need to be called, how parameters are named and stuff like that. So it might be the case that some of the stuff is not working when you do it with Azure, with PowerShell version 5. And honestly, I, I didn't want to put the effort into it to be such versatile that you can run it with every PowerShell version. I mean, why use an older one if you can the most current version? So yeah, that's it. But you can still use the check tools and updates menu to, like, automate all the steps needed to make it run. It will check if the Azure CLI is installed, yes, no. Are there updates? Yes, no. If yes, or if it's not even installed, download the MSI file and install it for you. And same goes for the two modules. So as we do not want to run it in this version, let's do it here, not it, Apex. So it should say, yeah, everything is here, PowerShell version 7, and all the tools we need are here. So again, I'm going to use the Pwned labs, or some of the attack scenarios and steps from several Pwned labs labs. And yeah, I don't get money from them, but I can only highly recommend it. If you are not sitting on a huge budget to build like your old or your own tenant with all the misconfigurations and all the money that needs to be put into there to have like storage accounts and etc. pp. Like, I have my own test tenant, but it's just like a cumulation of users and groups and stuff like that. And I cannot build this in my free time. So I really appreciate having something such cool for such a good price, I would say, to play around with and actually develop the tool and evolve it. So as you can see, we have the menu, or the option to set the tenant. Went to the authentication menu. We have queries still. We have a text still. Now I have a dedicated loot menu, and we also have a tokens menu, but we will come to that in a sec. So let's first authenticate. It's still megabit tag that we are going to target. We are going to log in interactively and start with the database user where we found credentials for. And the workflow for me, and how the intention is for this tool to be used, is to log in with the same user to all three tools, and then be able, if the query says like give me user information or group information, you can always go like, hey, use all three tools. And there might be cases where one tool gives you a more verbose output or gives you information about options, flags, whatever that are not present or you cannot query with another tool. So always, if there is the possibility, compare it. You use like all that is available to you to get most out of it, I would say. So last but not least, we are going to log into the graph module. And now this is reflected still, this menu didn't change. So we see to which tools are we logged into with which user. Go back here, and the attack path for the DB user is that there is an administrative unit that grants him the authentication administrator over the users inside that unit. I think this is nothing new. If the tool sees that your current user is a member of one of those administrative units roles assigned, then he will highlight it. So we are the authentication administrator over Daiki, and hence we should be able to reset or set a new password for him. This can be found in the attacks. And here the reset user's password, it already says like this is going over the graph PowerShell module. Honestly speaking, I don't know if the other tools are capable of doing it, but this is how it's implemented here. So you need to be logged into the graph module in order to carry out this attack, at least via Apex. So let's put in Nike here. Let's give him a super secure password that should be successful. And again, we need to authenticate. The Azure PowerShell module. And as the last step, graph version Daiki. So now that we have that, the attack part for Daiki actually is that he is the owner of an application. So we want to select Daiki. We could also select like any other account, and in that case, we use the graph PowerShell module to query that. And as the um, as Daiki, the owner of this application, we should be able to set a secret for this application. What you need to take into consideration, and I feel this is absolutely confusing in this whole Microsoft cloud environment. There are so many IDs to a single object, but just the app ID is like the username. So if it's asking you for a username and password or secret or whatever it is, you need this. But to reference it and to carry out the attacks, you need this unique ID, the object ID of the application in that case. So to carry out the attack, we want to copy this, go back to the attacks menu. Now we want to use to set a new secret for an application. Now it's also mentioned here, you need the object ID and not the application ID. And there we get our new secret. Note that down. And now we should be able to authenticate to Azure CLI and the AZ PowerShell module as service principals. So now, in contrast to the object ID, we need the app ID, like I said, and use the newly created secret to log in. worked. And let's also log into the PowerShell module for Azure. And again, we need the app ID and our new secret. I don't know what's going on in the code. It gives an error here, but that shouldn't bother us. It's still working, so we can see we are logged into CLI as like the FSPN and to the PowerShell module. No problem. So in that case, now the attack path for this is that there are roles assigned to the service principal. I don't know, let's use Azure PowerShell module. And we can see that we, in the resource group mbtrg1, there is a storage account of the name storage QA and so quality assurance environment, whatever. And there is a container in there with the name of general purpose. No, I think it's not the container, it's more like the name of the blob. I'm not 100% sure. But as we can see, it's the DIKE FSPN. There's a role definition of reader and storage blob data reader. So most likely the service principal for this application needs to access those data in this blob, and hence, yeah, it has the reader rights. So we should now be able to go to the loot menu, go to storage, list blobs and containers. Now we use the Azure PowerShell module. And what it does is it tries to read all available containers. So all the containers that are available to you. But in that case, we have those dedicated rules giving us read access over the blobs rather than over the containers where those blobs reside in. And hence this will fail now. And that is also something to take into consideration because some of the tools that do like this automatically for you and fetch the loot from everything they can see, they might error out and tell you, hey, I'm DIKE FSPN, but I cannot see any container here, so there is nothing for you to fetch. That would be a wrong assumption. So what the tool does as a fallback is then, hey, if you're sure you can enter something or you have access to something, then give us the name and we will do it manually. And then it will list the blobs now inside that container. And if everything goes well and the demo gods are with me, then we should see the content. Come on, bud, do something. You can do it. Okay, I needed to troubleshoot a little bit. It was like Zscaler was interfering with the request. Sorry for that. So we entered storage account Q&A env. We try to check if we can automatically list all the containers that are available, and of course, like we do not have the permissions to read the containers, but only the blobs. We have to specify it manually. So let's paste general purpose here, and now it's listing the blobs, and now we can have access to the stuff that is in there. Okay. Just to let's just see how this looks. If we check on the blobs, it will then download the blob, and we can see here are the meeting minutes, attendees, meeting notes, etc. pp. So let's get back to the main menu. I want to showcase something else. For that, we are going to authenticate now with another user, and that in that case is the server user. Work on school account. where you find credentials for this user, and we are also going to log into the AZ PowerShell module, and that should be sufficient to showcase what I want to show you. So to like showcase what I meant before when I said that certain rights might make other tools fail. Let's go back to the loot menu. Then let's not use this one, but rather try to use get AZ passwords from Microburst from Carl Fosan, which I implemented here. This was someone on LinkedIn reaching out to me and say, "Hey Daniel, cool tool, would be nice if you could add some functionality here." So I did that. So if we run this now, it first checks, hey, is this available or no? This is like no prerequisite for the whole tool to work, so I just check it here. If it's not present and get AZ passwords it's not available, I'm downloading it from GitHub, loading it into memory so you can use it. And honestly speaking, it's awesome. What Carl did with the whole microburst suite, that is really, really cool. So the first thing that you get is like this selection menu for the subscription you want to let it run against. Then it says, hey, I'm the server user now, going to check for all the stuff. And here you can see like it already saw that there is something that it can do with storage accounts, but it gives us nothing. So normally you get like another grid view of all the credentials that it was able to extract. So there was something hindering get AZ passwords for our server user to fetch the stuff that is actually able to access. So to see that with the built-in functionality in Apex, let's again run the list storage resources stuff, the storage account. We're going to enter it. And now the automatism to list the available containers should work, as the server user indeed has the rights to read those. And now you can see we have 3 available containers in contrast to only this one that we had. And let's just select the server files one, and there you can see we have like a custom extension test.ps1. We can download this as well, and here we see the context. Let's go back. And in that case, as we are equipped with um, the according rights, this user could also go here and list the storage account. So this would be like the starting point. We authenticate, we got credentials for the server users. We log in, we check on this with no further information. We get the info on the storage account name, and then we can go and just let this whole automatism run and fetch all the stuff that is available to us. So there is another thing that I want to show you, or it shows several things at once, I guess. So let's get back to the attacks menu, and we have 2 options to try to bypass MFA restrictions due to conditional access policies. In that case, we have found credentials for Adrian Taylor, and we are trying to bypass it. So let's start with MFA sweep from Hugh Bullock. Also, one of those awesome people that put out stuff. We will see his other tool, Graph Runner, in a second. If you want to like it, the tool is capable of much more than I implemented here. So to have take the full advantage of this tool, just go to his GitHub repo and download it from there. But just to showcase how the implementation here is meant, so there's nothing special done. I just import it here, download it from GitHub, as you can see. Just give it the values. We are not going to check for ADFS, but we are doing the MFA sweep. We can already see, hey, yeah, we can log in. The credentials are valid, but we are not able to bypass MFA by just trying to access the Graph API or whatever it is. But maybe Graph Runner can. So it's trying to authenticate to the Graph API, but it can do so by specifying a dedicated device and browser, building up a custom or a tailored user agent. And that can, if the conditional access policy allows for it, be used to bypass it. So now it goes through all the different combinations for macOS, OS2, whatever it is. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you did not include OS2. So this is a combination of Token Tactics V2 um, from Fabian Bader and the stuff from Graph Runner. And they both share similarities, so I just put it into one function here to build it. And what we can see is actually that with the device Android mobile and browser Android, so something that is coming from an Android device, we were actually able to connect to the Graph API. And now we have an access token and a refresh token. And we could use this, as it says, to connect to MG Graph. But let's see how the stuff that I stole from Fabian's tool can help us here to also log into other modules. And that can be found in the tokens menu. So here we can see that I only implemented 3 functions out of the whole tool. It's also capable of doing much more. So if you need the full functionality, go to Fabian's GitHub repo and download it from there. To be able to access the Azure PowerShell module, we need to have like an Azure Management Access token. So now we can paste the refresh token that we want to exchange into an access token. And then it also asks you, so Token Tactics is also capable of providing this custom user agent string. And as we now know, hey, we need it actually to bypass the conditional access policy. Let's say yes. And now you have like a nice selection menu. We select Android mobile again. I don't know, let's use Android again just to be on the safe side. We can now see that the scope is for management.azure.com, which we actually need. And I just copy the access token. And let's see what happens if we just try to authenticate to the PowerShell module as Adrian, work or school account. So what we are expecting now is that it's prompting us for MFA, and it actually does. So we can, at that stage, not log into the Azure PowerShell module. So let's cancel this. And instead we say, hey, please use an access token. Just copy the access token that we just got. Then it just wants us to have the username that we want to connect to. And voila, we are now logged in as Adrian to the Azure PowerShell module, effectively bypassing MFA. And starting from here, we can try to do stuff. So Adrian is also capable of reading stuff. So again, let's go to the loot menu, and this is not meant to like bash on microburst or its features. Like I said, it's an awesome tool, but just to showcase you that it's not capable of maybe fetching all the edge cases. Let's see if it gives us something back. And as I probably know, it's not. So in that case, Adrian is capable of doing stuff to container apps. We are logged in via the PowerShell module, so let's use that. And in that case, you can now see and actually get AZ passwords is also trying to get container app details. I'm not 100% sure why it's not working in that case. So maybe it's again related to what rights does this user have to which objects. But in that case, we can see, hey, there is a container app project Oakley. And what I do next is I extract. So normally, if you run the commandlets to fetch it, you get like a JSON blob that is pages long. I just extract a few information, so the name, the ID, so where it is located, then the config, and that might contain secrets. So this is the only reason for why we are extracting it. Then if there is a service principal tied to it and what type it is. And if it finds that in the config there is a secret, then it will ask you whether you want to see it or download it. And if we do that, we can see, hey, there is an account key in there, and that is the content of this account key. And continuing from there, you need to check on your own in Pwn Labs and play around with that. So yeah, that was it, I guess, for the stuff that I put into here. I expect more to come. If you happen to play around with the tool, I would be happy for some feedback, suggestions. What did you like? What did you not like? Feel free to open pull requests. Unless you don't put any strange backdoors or whatever it is into it, I'll be happy to check on them and implement them if it makes sense to me. If not, just fork it and run your own version, I guess. So that's it. Have a nice weekend, guys, and see you next time.